Welcome to the Let's Talk About Talking podcast with your host, Adrienne Fuller, language and communications expert for kids of all ages. On this podcast, we talk about speech, language, and all things happening with your child, giving you specific tactical information you can use to help your kids talk, listen, and thrive in their academic journey.
Well, good afternoon, guys. I am so glad to see you or talk to you this afternoon. We are getting ready for all things coming up shortly. My name is Adrienne Fuller. I'm a speech language pathologist, also known as Miss A, the SLP. And today I have an amazing guest with me. Her name is Joanne, and I'm going to bring her on right now. So I'm excited to talk to her. I hope that you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. I always want to remind you and let all parents know that parents, you're doing a great job. There's a lot of guilt that I encounter when I talk to parents in our office or just online. And I just want to let you know, hey, you're doing the best you can. So give yourself a break and give yourself some grace. But I'm so glad to have Joanne Cazeau.
Yeah.
Okay. She's here with me today. She's a speech language pathologist specializing in pediatrics. And oh my gosh, if you ever have a moment and you're on Instagram, visit her page. It's called The Speech Language Pathologist. I mean, the content is fire.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I love it. And
Thanks.
so Joanne's practice is called Koze Speech Therapy. It's located in New Jersey. What part of New Jersey?
In northern New Jersey. So we're a little bit closer to New York City. So Bergen, we serve Bergen and Essex County in New Jersey.
Very nice. Go ahead and tell us what made you get into speech therapy, speech language pathology in the first place?
Yeah, so I actually had a not so positive experience with a speech language pathologist. As a child, when I moved here from Haiti, I was assessed by a speech language pathologist and I didn't speak any English, but I was assessed in English, so it wasn't a very positive experience. I was misdiagnosed, but my mom was my strongest advocate, so she made sure that I got the resources that I actually needed. And so from that point on, I knew that speech pathology was a profession, and I started to look into it. In high school, I actually interned at a rehab department where there was a speech language pathologist. She was a pediatric speech language pathologist, and from that moment on, I just fell in love with the practice in a way that I wasn't afforded to when I was a child, when I had my experience. So I knew that it was a helpful profession and that I knew that I could help children if I also became a speech language pathologist.
Oh my gosh. Can we just back that up just a little bit? Because, you know, I interviewed a person who's now a therapist of mine, and her thing was like, we're located in Florida. We have a lot of Spanish speaking patients. We have a lot of Creole speaking patients, but she was very adamant about someone she did an internship with. She didn't always feel like kids who spoke a different language, like English was not their first language, like she didn't feel like they got a fair shot. And that really spoke to me. And so if you are a speech therapist listening to this, for all the speech therapists out there who tend to, because I still see it a lot, like, oh, they speak whatever language, but we only speak English. But that's not the child's fault. Would you agree with that? Like, so how could we, what should we do? For lack of a better word.
Yeah, I think definitely if a child presents to your practice or to your school and you're the evaluating speech language pathologist, if you are aware that that child doesn't speak English and you are an English monolingual, then it's your responsibility to either seek out resources from your school or your practice, or to get in contact with a speech language pathologist who would be able to better serve that child, or just having an understanding of the child's language is also very important in order to be able to accurately diagnose them. I was diagnosed with a speech language disorder, but the entire evaluation, I was lost. I was crying. I had no idea what was going on. I just knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. So I think that if you are a speech language pathologist who has a kiddo come across your caseload, I refer clients out all the time because I know that I don't have the tools to be able to accurately assess them, and I don't want to misdiagnose them because that could potentially have an impact that is ongoing. Definitely making referrals and reaching out to people. There are a lot of speech language pathologists here on Instagram. It's really easy to network, connect, and ask for support. So I think asking for support when you know that you're just not equipped to evaluate a child is definitely what I would recommend.
Great. I love that. I love all of that. So for parents who might be bilingual, or let me just ask this, because we've had someone recently come into our office, very bilingual. Mm-hmm. And we are very clear about, at the moment we have a therapist that speaks English, but the parent was very like, okay, but I still want them to receive this service. What would you say to that maybe scenario?
Yeah, so this is a bilingual family that is looking for bilingual services, or they're looking for monolingual services?
They were looking for monolingual services in in another language, in Spanish.
Yeah, so a family like that, I would feel like if I'm not able to support them, I think it's responsible to find that out on the front end so that you're not evaluating a client and then welcoming them into their practice and then potentially not being able to serve them. So I always have that as part of my intake forms. I do a lot of networking in my area, so I always make sure that I keep tabs with other therapists that are nearby. For a family like that, if it is their wish to have the therapy in their native language, then I think that it would be the clinician's responsibility to redirect them to someone who can help them.
As we did.
Yeah.
No, we want to be sure we're meeting everyone's needs. But I am a big advocate in our practice of saying, hey, this is what we offer. If it's what works for you, great. If not, let's get you to the place where you'll be happy.
Yeah. And I think that the family will appreciate you in the long run, and you'll be known as the practice who gets families exactly what they need. So you might have not been able to bring in that client into your practice, and they may have not been able to work with your great clinicians, but they will remember you as the practice who got them exactly what they needed. And then you'll get referrals from that, and you'll really get a lot of community love from that.
Yeah, sometimes just being a connector, right, Joanne, is really the service that we end up providing, which is okay too.
Yeah,
like every client is not my client that walks through the door. You're absolutely right.
Exactly.
Your tagline is empowering parents of late talkers. I love that. That's also kind of my passion. Like, I love that you're doing that, because a lot of times parents that come through our door, and I'm sure through your doors, will say things like, I thought there was a problem a year ago, but my pediatrician told me to wait. They wouldn't give me a referral. And so if your child is a late talker, what would you say to them?
So if your child is a late talker, first of all, I like to tell families that they know their children best. So if you are getting an instinct that there's something wrong, that your child is needing additional supports that they're just not getting, trust that instinct. I feel like a lot of times parents don't follow through with that instinct because they're just not sure, or they don't have the knowledge to be able to make that decision. But trust your instinct and reach out to your pediatrician. That would be my first step. So reach out to your pediatrician, express your concerns. A lot of pediatricians are really good about connecting families and, making a preliminary diagnosis and connecting families with a pediatric speech language pathologist. Sometimes, however, some families have been told to wait and see. Professionally, right, speech language pathologists and early childhood specialists, we do not recommend the wait and see method. Yeah, we recommend instead check and see, right? So don't wait and see, check and see. So if your pediatrician is kind of not mirroring those concerns that you're having, then you can go ahead on your own and reach out to a local speech language pathologist. And that speech language pathologist will do a comprehensive evaluation, and they'll let you know if services are warranted. Or on the other hand, they might tell you, you know what, your kiddo's right on track and they actually don't need services right now. But it's better to know that and kind of cross our T's and dot our I's, than to potentially have a lapse of services where your child could have been getting the services, but they weren't, because we know that the first 3 years of a child's life are the most important in terms of their development and really enriching their development. So I would say that the first step is to contact your pediatrician and express your concerns. If you feel like you're not being heard, then go directly call your insurance company or look around on, Yellow Books, if that's still around, or Google, or there are lots and lots of different directories that are specifically targeted to speech language pathologists, like SLP Find, and also the ASHA Pro Find, and SLP Next. There's a whole kind of slew of directories that are available to families, and see if you can get connected to a local SLP. And the third thing that I like to tell all families is to check their state early intervention program. So in a lot of states, your child is eligible to get services from birth to 3, and some states are eligible to get services from birth to 5. Some states have a cost share system where you might be expected to pay a portion of the services or no portion of the services, just depending on your present economic status. And there are some states where the services are free. So I always tell all families to definitely check with their state early intervention systems. And it's really nice to also be able to get private speech therapy and then also get the supplemental services from the states. So that would be my three-step advice to if you have concerns about your child's speech and language, what kind of things that you can do.
Love all of those. I just want to highlight one thing for any parents listening. Joanne said the first 3 years of life are in development are really the most important. And I will 100% agree with that. And so I love that that's your philosophy. And I totally agree with that. So Joanne, parent, check it out. If I always say, you're your child's best advocate, you are the expert in your own child, right? Just like you said. So I just feel like that is so super important. And also early intervention, guys, is a great program. I didn't know that, like, in our state, in Florida, there's no cost involved, but in some there are, and that's okay. I love that, actually. I believe everyone should have some kind of skin in the game. So I think that's great. And also, guys, the marriage of the two, the service that you get from early intervention or your preschool diagnostic program, along with private services, man, that is a power punch, right?
Yeah. I always recommend, even to my families that are coming in privately, if they have the availability, if they can, right, to also seek out services through early intervention, just because it's available. So why not take advantage? But it's also like you're piling on services. So the more supports that your child is getting access to, the more strategies that they're getting access to, then the more progress then we can expect to see.
How long, in your opinion, should a parent wait? If they're subscribing to the wait and see, because we both agree that, hey, let's check and see. I say, let's just see. But if you're putting yourself on a timetable, how long should a parent wait?
So I think, first of all, we do not subscribe to wait and see. So I just want to circle back and say that one more time.
I agree.
I would say if you consult with your pediatrician and you're not ready to move forward with a speech language pathologist, getting some strategies in place, maybe checking out a couple of platforms, online platforms, where you can get some additional supports. I wouldn't wait more than a month. So 4 weeks, that's the turnaround. Trying some new strategies at home, getting connected maybe with a professional that can support you in that capacity. And I would say after a month, then I would definitely be looking into scheduling an evaluation.
I agree. And also, if you're saying month, I mean, you just opened the door. 30 days to get your talking parent. You see that? You see how I plugged that right there? But it's not even about a product, but I do love that. If you are going to say, we'll just see, really no longer than a month. I agree totally on that.
Yeah.
And just one last question. No, two last questions. What are some of your favorite therapy activities?
Okay. So that's a tricky question for me. So I mostly work with late talkers. That's predominantly what my caseload looks like. My method of therapy is very different in that I bring nothing into the home. So I do all home-based therapy, and for families that just cannot make the home-based therapy work because of personal schedules or work schedules, I see kiddos in their daycares and I also see them in their preschools. I don't have a particular favorite because I just walk in barehanded, and every now and again I kind of go through this guilt thing where I'm just like, I feel like maybe I'm not being a great therapist because I'm not at Target buying all of the toys. But I promise you, children will play with anything. Anything is a toy. And I find it a lot more functional when I can come into the home and use what the child already has, so that when I leave, I'm not leaving with that thing. And the parent still has those tools to be able to facilitate learning for their children. That said, bubbles are great. I feel like you can target so many things with bubbles. You can do really nice bilabial sounds, which are early developing sounds for children, like the M sound, the B sound, and the P sound, exactly. So you can talk about more, right? You can talk about pop, you could talk about bubbles, you could talk about big. Those are really nice words that bring your lips together in the beginning of the word. So I think that's great. It's also really good for requesting and requesting to continue. You can talk about some nice environmental sounds like pop, right? So I think bubbles are just great. So if you have bubbles lying around, they're usually like $1.50, or, you know, they're pretty affordable. So I think those are really awesome. And then also using things that are in the home. So I don't necessarily always play with toys. Sometimes I just work with everyday items. So that might be utensils, right? You can use kind of like a salad rake and a spoon, and you can use that to dig, right? So you can get like in a sandbox, or you can get outside and you can use that to dig. And I think that you can just play with a lot of things that are around the house. So I'll say bubbles. Puzzles are also really nice. You can work on in and out. You can work on labeling. You can work on different shapes and colors, potentially, even though those are not things that we want to focus on when a child does have a speech and language delay. We want to kind of take a step back away from those academic concepts. But what I tell parents is that we can put the focus word or the functional word first, and then we can put some of those academic descriptions after. So instead of emphasizing the red car, we can say, oh, that's a car. It's red. So we've already addressed the functional word, which is the car. And then that descriptor is really nice language for them to have, but we're not prioritizing that it's a red car. So I think lots of things. Cars, again, are another great thing to talk about. We can talk about environmental sounds, right? They go vroom, vroom, and beep, beep, and zoom. We can talk about action words. They go, right? Or they drive, or we can talk about some location concepts like up and down. So really, I don't have a favorite. I say all that to say, right? I just told you like a million things, but I say all that to say, I don't have a favorite, because whatever my child's favorite thing is, we'll make something out of it. We'll find functional language, right? We'll create an opportunity for functional language using whatever it is. I have a kid who likes to crunch water bottles. We can crunch water bottles all day, and we can take turns, right? We can talk about crunch, crunch, crunch. We can open the water bottle. We can put things inside and dump them out. So really, I don't have a favorite, because whatever my kid wants to play with that day, that's our favorite.
So that, going on that same line, what are some of your greatest hits then? When you walk into a home, the water bottle, I love that. Like, you're right. You don't need anything but what you have in your home. So a water bottle is a great one. What else have you found? Like, you walked into a home and like, this was our therapy activity.
Yeah. So I found a lot of kiddos that love containers, just like open those clear containers. So I'll tell you a couple of my favorites. So tissue boxes are definitely my favorite. We can stuff things inside. If you have an actual tissue box that has tissues in it, great. I mean, we'll like waste your tissues, but like your kid will love it, right? We can pull out, we can do ready, set, go. We can do it really fast. We can do it really slow. We can do a peekaboo, or we can just use that empty tissue box and we can put other things in there and still target really great language. And just kind of on the talk of containers, if you have those clear bins, some of my kids like to get inside of the bin, so we can do in and out, we can take turns, but also we can put some water inside and get some liquid dish soap inside, and then we can put some toy animals in there, or whatever that child is interested in at the time. Children love it. It's really sensory rich, right? They get that wetness, they get the bubbles that they're able to pop. It looks really, really fun, and there's lots of colors in the bin, but also we get to work on language, which is the whole focus of the session. Like, what
I
else
love
could you
it.
want?
You know, I love hearing and talking to up and coming, or you're not new because you've been practicing for like what, 6, 7, 8
6 years,
years.
7 years, yeah, coming up on 7, yeah.
And it's always so encouraging to me, like, oh my gosh, that is, as the kids say, you set a whole bar.
Oh, thank you.
No, I love it. I'm so encouraged for our profession and the great things that therapists are doing all around this country. And as we get ready to get out of here, if there's one thing you could tell a parent, because sometimes I feel like, do you feel like sometimes parents feel a little, not silly, but like if a parent is a quiet parent or not as outgoing as maybe you and I would be,
yeah,
if there's one thing you could tell them to do those things with the things that they have at home, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I'll say is that I am also not a very outgoing person. I just know how to, when I get in front of my kiddo, I get really excited for them to learn and I get really excited for them to play, so I can kind of switch it on. And what I tell my parents is that a lot of times you'll feel like either a cartoon character or you'll feel like you're narrating a book, right? Because we're talking about, oh, you're popping, oh, ready, set, go. It feels like you're narrating a book. None of it feels really natural, but to your kid, it feels really, really fun. So if it feels really silly, don't feel like you're alone. Sometimes it feels really silly to us, and we're the professionals. We do it every day. It seems kind of like kooky crazy, but we're kind of doing it, right? The other thing that I want to tell my parents is that I don't ever want to feel like they should be strapped for time because they're so busy that there's no time for them to be able to facilitate learning for their kiddos. So what I tell my parents, which I push a lot, is to take advantage of routines. So I know that my parents are telling me, we have 3 kids, there's schools, there's drop off, there's, after school activities, and we have to do lunch and nap and all of those things. Take advantage of those routines. So there are several kinds of routines where you can really implement some of the strategies that we tell you about. And it's perfect because those routines happen every day. So we get that repetition, but also those routines are already built into your day. So you're not having to decide, okay, today we're going to work on open. We're going to sit down and we're going to, grab some boxes and we're going to work on open. You can work on open while you're opening containers for the lunchbox, right? You can work on open while you're opening up wipes while you're doing the diaper change. So there's different opportunities for you to work on some of those skills where you don't have to kind of stop your whole schedule and stop your whole day and figure out exactly how you're going to make it work, because that's what I hear from a lot of my parents. We want to be able to help. We're both working from home. There's no way that we can do it. Or, there's just other obligations. So I tell my parents to feel confident and using some of the routines that they already have to be able to facilitate that learning. Like, how many times do you do a diaper change for your little one? 8 to 12 times. That's 8 to 12 times that you can work on peekaboo, or you can work on off, or you can do something really silly like, oh, stinky, right? So that's all language that your child is receiving, and we're modeling without expectation. So they might not do anything in that moment, but we keep feeding them that language. So I want parents to feel confident that they have the tools and that they have the time to be able to facilitate learning. And I also want them to know that they have the instinct to feel like when something is not right, when they need additional services, to trust that instinct. I think a lot of parents kind of get spooked, or they think, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do, but you do. If you feel like, your child needs a little bit of extra love and that comes from a professional, then you should trust that instinct.
I 100% wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the little gems you dropped, all the knowledge that you brought to this today. That was awesome.
Thank
you guys,
you.
if you have a chance, or if you want to know more, or if you're in the New Jersey area, please look up Koze Therapy. It is in New Jersey.
New Jersey, yep. Northern New Jersey.
Northern New Jersey, guys. Essex County.
Bergen County as well.
Yes, and she does home. She does home visits, which is
strictly home. So no
only home.
Office. Yep. So I only come into the house. I really feel like kids learn the best when they are in the environments where what they're in every day. And kids spend over 92% of their waking hours with their parents and their caregivers and, their daycare caregivers. So why not go to those places?
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true. Joanne, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day and
Thank
rest
you
of
so
your week.
much. Thank you so
for
much,
joining
Adrienne.
me.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Let's Talk About Talking podcast with your host, Adrienne Fuller, language and communications expert for kids of all ages. You can grab Adrienne's book, 30 Days to Get Your Toddler Talking, on Amazon or at speechbuilders.org.